What's happening, guys? I'm Mo and welcome to Hexadecimo, the home of the nerd, with weekly tech tips, reviews and hacks on how to get the most out of your tech. This may not be a feature-rich camera, but for most people it will do exactly what they need it to do. I've been using it professionally since selling my A7 IIIs last month as an interim camera until the Sony A7 IVs come out. However, this camera will bring many people into the wonderful world of full frame photography and videography. Now, I used to get annoyed that my full frame camera set was clunky, big, heavy, and not really something I could easily carry every day. So I settled for a crop sensor, the A6600 instead. Not anymore. Introducing the Sony A7C, possibly my favourite camera at the moment, and for some really valid reasons. If you want a good camera in most cases, you won't be disappointed. Stop watching now, go buy this camera right now, links in the description below. If you want to learn more about this camera, stay tuned and I'll give you my pros and cons of using this camera for the last few months since it's been out. Before we start, I want to say I bought this camera with my own money and my views are my own and not influenced by Sony or anyone else. The Sony A7C. Nobody really knows where this camera sort of fits in. However, I think it's targeted at the high-end consumer who wants a full frame camera without necessarily all the pro features and all of the bells and whistles. I've been using this camera since it came out, so about 6 or 7 months now, and as of making this video I can honestly say it's one of my favourite cameras at the moment and will be good enough for most people, both as a consumer grade and for semi-professional use. However, I will be keeping this camera most definitely in my arsenal for when I get the A7S III along with my A7 IVs to make up a 4-camera setup. Now, I'm confident to use this camera professionally since I use it with an external recorder, but I do advise that you take caution if you are thinking about using it professionally since it only has one memory card slot. Memory cards do on occasion fail, and if you're connecting anything externally, you have to be aware that while the camera is weather sealed, your external recorder may not be. I did get annoyed with the flip screen on the other Sony cameras. However, having this fully articulating screen makes it possible to catch shots from many more angles than the flip up screen would ever be able to. Since it uses the old Bions X processor, the A7C doesn't gain the updated menu that we find in the A7S IIIs. I usually fly this camera on a gimbal as it's compact and lightweight, and I don't have to worry about the weight or clearance, making it very easy to balance, and it usually takes me 2 to 3 minutes to balance it on the gimbal. Plus it also doubles as a desktop tripod, allowing me to save space when I shoot my YouTube videos. Since it's the only camera that I use on the gimbal, it usually lives there, slides on and off with the quick release plate. I like the Arcus twist that they've got on the new RS2s, and it just allows me to go from handheld, tripod to gimbal really quickly. I usually fly it with this 24 to 70 Sony lens, and that gives me my variable focal length, though I am looking to get the Sigma 24 to 70, which I feel will pair nicely with this camera and for my uses. Bear with me on the next point. It might seem irrelevant, but there's good reasoning as to why I'm telling you this. Recently, Sony announced a new camera. I got so excited, and in anticipation to the Sony A7 IV, all the rumours were going and pointing in that direction. I sold my A7 IIIs. And then they went and announced the A1 series of camera, which is a new line of camera. It's super high end, coming in at over 6 grand, way over my budget for a mirrorless or DSLR camera, but perfect for, say, a royal photographer or a sports photographer who needs great video and needs great pictures. But my views on that camera in another video. This is about the A7C. So I'm sticking with my A7 line of cameras instead, and if I go to that budget, I will get a cinema cam instead of a mirrorless cam, since I primarily shoot video anyway. But saying that, that forced me to use this camera more than I would have normally. Over the last few weeks, I had to use it in professional settings, not just for my YouTube or family and travel. Yeah, right. Everywhere's locked down at the moment. We can't travel. I shot interviews, music videos, podcasts, real estate, and even a game show pilot with this camera, as well as my YouTube content. So I managed to use it a great deal, and it really outperformed all of my expectations. Many people were upset that this is virtually an A7 III Lite, but what they failed to realize that this was not only a smaller, lighter camera, it had the better color science and faster autofocus. It's almost instant focus, and I think Sony call it real-time focus. And that's one of the reasons it flies on my gimbal. I can have that shallow depth of field when I want, and I can have that buttery, smooth footage all while having my target in focus. It's also lighter than the A7 III. If you have to carry this around all day, that 140 grams will make a difference. It's got better battery life. It does have a slower flash sync speed and maxes out the shutter speed at 1/4000th of a second. But if you go to silent shooting mode, you can get it up to that 1/8000th of a second. Other than that, they're pretty much the same. And the A7 III was heralded as a great camera for professionals, for prosumers, for consumers. Anyone that wanted a decent camera, the A7 III was that camera, and this is a smaller, lighter version of that has better color science and better autofocus. What more do you want? Other than that, they're pretty much the same, but I do wish they kept that front dial. That's something that I do miss. I love how compact it is and how you can go around generally unnoticed with a camera that is so powerful. This excites me, not just on this camera, but where Sony are going to take their new line of cameras, both professional and consumer lines. We don't complain when computer processors get smaller and cheaper and faster, but we seem to be complaining about cameras. And I carry this camera with me every day now. So there you go. I'm a perfect customer for Sony for this camera. And this camera, a lot of people were disappointed that it wasn't the A7 IV. It's not targeted at A7 III users, but as a stepping stone from either crop sensor cameras or someone just getting into photography who wants to learn and doesn't have the budget or need a high-end camera. Or it could be somebody who wants a B cam that can be kept with their professional camera and can match footage easily and be lightweight. So to me, this camera is a huge deal. It's a professional grade camera put in a consumer grade body with the extra fat trimmed off. I will continue to use it for my talking head videos, my behind the scenes, gimbal shots, and my general life, day-to-day life uses. If you are a pro, you might want to wait for the A7 IV, or if you have the budget, then go for the A7S III. If not, then this camera will be a perfect camera for you to begin. Just make sure you get an external recorder. So to conclude, the A7 III has the potential to become one of the best family cameras for people who wouldn't currently consider a full frame camera, or a really, really capable travel companion for experienced photographers. So that's it for today's review. Make sure you tune in next week for another video and another review. Links to this camera are in the description below, so if that's something you would like to buy, please go through our links. It helps us tremendously to keep these videos coming to you. Until next week, I'll see you guys later.